Okay, I think we are in fact recording. Let me make sure that's true. It says we are. Okay. All right. On three, two, one. Hi, this is Peter Brusso for SeniorScamsPodcast.com. I'm back with my co-host Richard Bentley. How are you doing today, Dick?
I'm doing well, Peter. How about yourself?
Good. We're trying to finally get the podcast thing figured out so people can see both of us at a time. So a little trial and error. We did one yesterday that the audio was bad. I thought we'd go with our headsets off and look a little bit more natural, but the audio sounded horrible. And as I and as I always say, the most important thing about video is the sound quality. If you can't understand what they're saying, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But anyway, so today I'm going to share on the screen here some abuse standards. They won't be able to see you, but they'll be able to see my notes here. And there's two good links at the top of my notes here that we're going to have out on the our website on the links page. But here's some key findings. While unreported, the annual financial loss by victims of elder financial abuse is estimated to be at least $2.6 billion. And you'd mentioned this on the first podcast. Elders' vulnerabilities and larger net worth make them a prime target for financial abuse. That's interesting as well. The increased aging of the population, social changes, and technology advances will lead to a dramatic increase of in the opportunity for the growing level of elder abuse. Now, that's an interesting stat because we're trying to be a vanguard somehow to educate them about all these various things. The perpetrators of elder financial abuse are typically not strangers. Now, that was interesting. I think I centered more on strangers than I did on close personal friends, but it says, and most are people who have gained the trust of the older individual, including businesses, that was surprising, service professionals, another surprising stat, and family members. I could guess that one. The victims of elder financial abuse, some come from all walks of life, and this is the type of abuse that affects elders regardless. So, and then I'm going to swing back over to you here, Dick. What do you think of those stats, huh?
Well, they're surprising in a couple of ways. One, the absolute total dollars that is lost yearly. I mean, that's staggering when you think of it, and the amount of individual scams that must have to take place to total up to that kind of a dollar amount. And two, what surprised me when I first heard it was that most of the scams are coming from family, friends, or businesses, not strangers. I would have thought that would be the exact opposite. So
Yeah,
those are two things that surprised me a lot.
hey, by the way, pull your screen down just a little bit more. I got too much headroom there. Perfect. There you go. Yeah, that's crazy too. Now, with that being said, let me go back over to my notes a minute because there was a story there, and this was in the Tri-City Times Thursday, April 3rd, 2008. So pretty old data, but nonetheless, a three-time convicted 70-year-old man. Now, here's another stereotype we had. I thought there would be, middle-aged men and women scamming, but here's a 70-year-old man told an elderly couple who befriended him that he needed money to receive an inheritance from a deceased family member in England. He, we've heard that before.
Yeah.
He showed the couple, and this is interesting though, he showed a couple the document indicating the money was there and even had someone call them to verify. The perpetrator visited the couple 3 times in a row. Each time, the wife signed a check to him. The first check was for $11,000. The second check, now this is like stupid here, was for $5,050. And the third check was for $3,350. During during the fourth visit, about a week later, the swindler accompanied them to a bank where the couple took out their savings and borrowed against a line of credit to give him $17,200, right? The couple's
Wow.
son learned of the transaction and called the authorities. The swindler had been previously arrested for securities fraud for taking $300 payments from undercover officers while promising them multi-million dollar returns on their investment. At the time, he was sentenced to only 5 years in state prison. For his latest crime perpetrated against the elderly couple, he will spend up to 10 years in prison. So I guess he's out of the food chain now. But nonetheless, that's pretty crazy, isn't it?
It really is, and you just wonder. These he must be a tremendous personality con man to be able to convince people to do that, to giving them money like that uh, without verifying or calling anybody. It's remarkable.
Oh, by the way, Dick, I want you to write me a check for $10,500 against an inheritance that came from Nigeria, okay?
Yeah,
That's too funny.
it really is. If it
So,
wasn't sad, it would be.
it,
It's
it,
too funny.
and I think as the economy gets worse, I think the lure is even more on both sides. Both sides are ramping up, so to speak. They're seeing their net worth dwindle, and they're getting scared by that. And these guys, these scam guys, come up. Of course, they need money too. And there's a marriage made in heaven there, I guess, in con man versus elder person.
That's right. I mean, if you look at what's happened over the last 5 or 6 years to the 401ks of people, with what happened with the economy and the housing collapse and all, the seniors who have retired that are fixed income, I mean, they've lost sometimes 30, 40, 50% of their net worth. And they're concerned, obviously, they should be. And if someone comes along and makes what seems like a reasonable request of a way to them to get a little more security, a little more money, you're gonna fall for it. And it's just taking advantage of the vulnerabilities of people at a time when they're under a lot of pressure.
And I read one account this morning too about a guy who shows up at an elderly woman's house and says her son is in trouble and needs $300, like right now. And I don't know what kind of story he wound around that, but she didn't have any cash on hand, so he offered to take her to the bank, which they did, and she took out the $300. He brought her back home, dropped her off, and later that night she called her son because she was concerned about how he was doing, and there was no issue at all. He wasn't. She was scammed out of 300
Yeah,
bucks. That's amazing.
yeah. It is normally it's just following up on that. Normally they'll come in and say that he's been in an accident or he's got a traffic ticket and he needs bail. It's just something real emotional and real emergency type of a problem that they have.
That's
But
yeah, that's I just had a thought. I was watching a reality TV show called Thieves Inc. Have you heard about that one?
no, I haven't. No.
A couple that have been in fraud prevention for 20 years, they get hired by places to come steal from them and then show them how they did it. Eh,
Yeah.
And maybe we ought to have a senior scams Inc. Where we go scam somebody, record the whole thing, and then give the money back to them and say, "Now look, stop that." But
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
I don't know. I think
Yeah,
I don't know what the
yeah,
legalities of that would be, but
yeah,
I mean, at least the store understands that you're going to go steal from them. So I
yeah.
don't think
Well,
the
they're
poor
hired,
people,
so yeah,
yeah, would
yeah.
know that. But yeah, so the it's real interesting. By the way, good cup of coffee this morning. I don't know. Are you drinking coffee this morning there?
No, I'm not a coffee drinker.
Oh well, can't have everything. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, so did you have a couple more scams to talk about?
Yeah, in looking over, kind of the top 10 uh, scams that are perpetrated against us seniors, a couple stood out. Uh, One because it's very popular right now, and that's the homeowners reverse mortgage.
Hmm.
And there are some things that uh, you really should be aware of before you go out and apply for these reverse mortgages, which are very popular and actually very good to allow seniors to stay in their home uh, reduce their mortgage and have a monthly income, and that goes on for as long as they own obviously as long as they're alive, but as long as they own the home or as long as it's their main residence.
Hmm.
And I think you see ads on TV all the time for with Peter with Thompson, the ex
Right.
presidential candidate. I
Fred
see
Thompson.
yeah,
Yeah.
Fred Thompson, and I see him 4 or 5 times a day. But there are people who are taking advantage of it right now.
Now, how do they do that? What's the scam?
Well, there's a couple of ways they do it. Well, the first way is they'll call you and they'll charge you for information. In other words, they'll say, I can help you find a good reverse mortgage and provide you with basic information for a fee. And that's that's one of the ways. And any of the information that they would give you and they charge you for, HUD provides for free.
Wow.
And so you should not pay for any reverse mortgage information from anyone. Brochures or calculations of what you qualify for. Seniors lose thousands and thousands of dollars if they do that, and it's not necessary. And you can contact HUD at 1-888-466-3487 or go to HUD.gov to get more information on it. But HUD will provide all the information you would need in gathering up the facts to apply for this reverse mortgage. And
Uh,
again, it's not the reverse mortgage is not the scam. It's a very very legitimate way of getting equity out of your home and enjoying it while you're alive.
yeah, I think we went underwater there. You were saying it's a very viable way to get money out of your house and stay in it.
Right,
True reverse mortgages. I don't know.
right.
I don't know how those work. I know my mother had one before she passed, but yeah. Well, we'll have
Well,
some show notes about those too. I guess you know.
yeah, yeah. Well, the way they work is if you have equity in your home.
Hmm.
There's no credit checks required. There's no payment necessary. They'll pay off your mortgage, and the equity that's left over that you have, you can draw down on a monthly basis, and there's no interest charge. And it goes on obviously as long as you have the equity, and as long as you are still living in the house and alive. So, it's a good way if you kind of living on a small excuse me, small monthly Social Security thing to have some extra income to supplement it.
Right. I guess the bad rub there is when you run out of equity, you're done.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have to obviously plan for that, and tailor your monthly distributions to fit the equity you have.
Right.
But I do believe that there's a certain minimum equity that that you have to have to even get that type of a loan.
Right, and I'm sure that unfortunately, with a lot of houses that are underwater, that's not an option for some. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Terrible.
Right. And the second thing is you have to be aware of is if someone calls you and wants to be a counselor that is partners with other reverse mortgage lenders or financial services, and they'll try to push you into their products where they may not be the best deal, and you have to be careful, make sure they're legitimate, and that you check the Better Business Bureau and check with HUD to make sure you're dealing with a legitimate source. The government sets the regulations, and everyone who is in that business has to follow those rules and regulations.
Hmm.
You have to make sure you have a legitimate concern that you're dealing with.
Now, another shameless plug for Legal Shield. If a senior was going to get into a reverse mortgage and they had Legal Shield, could Legal Shield look over the documents for them, make sure that they're legitimate and things like that?
Oh yes, they'll review all the documents that are that are required, and they do that as part of the standard monthly fee that you pay. It's
It,
less than $1 a day.
yeah, the that might be a good thing for seniors to think about altogether is getting Legal Shield to protect them from all aspects later in life. You know, you work so hard your life to get to where you are, and then to have it essentially evaporate in a scam, just criminal. It truly is criminal. But I mean, the impact on your life is dramatic.
Well, it really is, and I think you make a great point because you know most of the seniors can't afford to have an attorney firm on retainer to review all these different things that they get hit with every day. And again, for less than $1 a day, you can call a top flight law firm and not incur any additional charges, and you can call them 10 times a day. So. Uh, it probably would be a very good thing for the seniors, yes.
It just made me think about this. We have my advertising TV system coming up online, and we ran out and put up free ads for people like yourself, even. Okay,
Yeah.
and I can remember just recently, telling them it's a free ad and I want to do a free ad, and they'll say, okay, but at the very end, are you sure this is free? There's no hidden charges? No. Why would you do that? They just can't believe that it's true. you know?
Well, well, that is absolutely true. My neighbor started a business, and I was helping him get it started. He was offering a free service for a quarter to businesses,
Yeah,
and you would have think I had a gun and was trying to rob him when I was talking to these business owners about free. They
right.
just
They
couldn't
can't believe
accept
it.
it.
Right.
Yeah,
Can't believe it.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, you know me as a pretty generous guy anyway,
yeah, yeah.
and people can't understand why I do half of what I do, but you do it because it makes you feel good.
Yeah,
Um,
and you do it, and it's the right thing to do for you. And it just to me, it's also a sign of the times we live in, where everything and everybody is suspicious of an offer that sounds like it's too good to be true. In most
well,
cases, it really is too good to be true.
that's how our friendship started. I knew you didn't have a whole lot of cash flow to be able to get a website, but I knew you needed one. And I invited you out to the house, and last moment you sent me an email and say, I don't think I'm coming. I just don't, I can't afford your services, even though you didn't
Yeah,
know what they were. And I said, will you get out here? I was going to show you a
yeah,
bunch of free stuff. And then it
yeah,
dawned on me that, hey, I'd like to teach you how to build your website. You needed it,
yeah, yeah.
and
That's right.
yeah, so it is generous people like myself typically, and I do say no to a lot of people because I got to make a living too. But I do run the gambit of, are you for real? Yeah, are you really
Yeah,
going to do this? And yes,
yeah,
I'm going to do that. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, when I say I'm going to do it, you can usually take that to
yeah,
the bank. I'm going to do that or die trying, one or the other.
yeah, yeah.
So, but
Uh,
anyway, um, our podcast that didn't go too well. I'm going to go over to the site. I've got the site. Actually, I'll pull up the site here, and so people can see what we've got here. And let's see, there that is. Come up here, and this is our site. You can't see it, but you just have to imagine it. Our scam stories is an area that I'm kind of using as a kind of catch-all here. And here's a here's one of the ones I was talking about, a ploy service for solution entry. Basically, fraudsters will be in the neighborhood, right? And I'll come back over and show our screens here. Um, so let me get that going. So the fraudsters are in the neighborhood, and you see this quite often. I mean, legitimately, like if somebody's doing a roof, they'll stick a sign out in front saying "roofing done by,"
yeah. Oh, yes,
and then other
yes.
people will see it in the neighborhood. Oh, I
Mm,
need my roof done too. Our
mm,
swimming pools do the same thing, so it's not totally unusual. But they'll show up at your doorstep saying, "We just finished a job in I don't know." Checking and making sure your electric outlets are in good shape and no fire, that kind of a thing. And would you be, let's do a free analysis. We'll just run a free check real quick here, and it's all free. And so the scammer keeps the elderly person talking while his team go in to check the electrical outlets and then steal anything they can steal,
yeah,
and then say everything is fine, give her a little certificate, whatever, walk away, and be done with it. And
yeah.
that happens apparently quite often.
It's unbelievable.
It,
It's unbelievable what these people think of and how they pull it off. It really is.
yeah, I think my counsel to elders is that threshold at the door no one crosses. That's one of the big things is that nothing's happening there. No money's going across that threshold. Nobody's coming in that threshold.
Yeah.
Just I'm an engineer by degree, and so we call that a system boundary. So you draw a
Yeah.
system boundary, and you have to check, see what comes across and what goes out to
That's
make sure
right.
that it's legitimate.
That's right.
And so we might want to start getting people to think about your system boundary or the walls of your house, and nobody crosses them either direction.
That's right. Yeah, and and tie that into the telephone boundary too.
Oh, that
No,
definitely
yeah,
crosses the boundary line. Those
yeah,
telephone lines
right,
come into the house, right? Well,
right.
that's
That's
crossing
right.
that boundary.
That's right.
Cable TV crosses that boundary. Radio waves cross that boundary. So you've got to just absolutely be the last vanguard. And
Right.
maybe one of the other things we want to talk about is in deputizing. Well, we talk about deputizing people to pass the word, but maybe we ought to encourage an elder family member to deputize a one or two of their family members that everything they do has to get somewhat approved by them or looked at. Not approved is too strong a word, but another set of eyeballs on what you want to do.
Well, I think that's a great idea because I think I agree with you. Approved if someone came to me and my family said you can't do anything unless I approve it, I would say, hey,
Yeah,
wait a minute.
take a hike.
But I do think if you had kind of a maybe policy's too strong also, but if you had the culture that says before you allow anyone in your house that you don't know, or before you send money anywhere, you call Peter, say, Peter, what do you think of this? Here's what I've been asked to do, and just get another point of view on it
Right.
before you make that decision.
Another set of eyeballs. Now, another shameless plug for Legal Shield. You'd think I was a Legal Shield guy, and I'm not. But
Yeah.
does the question is, would Legal Shield give me advice if I said I wanted to have my roof done, but I don't know these people for sure? Is that something that they could look up their background for you, or do a check, or anything like that?
Well, they would review any contracts or that these people would want you to sign, and they would look at it from that point of view. I don't believe that they would do kind of like a Better Business Bureau
Search.
search.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I'll look into it in our next podcast. I'll know for sure. So
But that would be interesting. That's one of the major drivers between Angie's List, for example. That they're somewhat vetted for being
right,
real, doing this thing. Yelp obviously is not a not a vetting source, but certainly people can look at Yelp.com and look up that company and see what other people say. It's of course, unfortunately, some of those what people say are not real. They're competitors bad mouthing the other guy. So
yeah,
got to look at that at a grain of salt. But if you look over the total broadband of the internet, you could probably come up with a good. Yeah, these guys are real. Or there's another one. I get a call from a number that I don't know, and they'll even leave a message about something. Call them back. I'll go on the internet and I'll do a reverse telephone number search, and they're scams. And they're all out there if you will go look. But
yeah. I think, and like I said, I'm going to check on that because it would be a great service if they could provide it. But I think it's the awareness not to accept these things at face value. And maybe you should have on your speed dial the Better Business Bureau, where you call and say, well, yeah, what's the deal with this company? But I think if the awareness, it's not our goal to make everybody suspicious of everybody else and live in this life of fear of being scammed. But I think if you're aware that the potential is very great,
hmm
and before you make any decisions or do anything, you check it out, like you said. I don't know how to reverse a phone number on the internet, but I do know how to call the Better Business Bureau, and I've
Sure.
done it before, and gotten some great information.
Sure. Yeah, I think that maybe there's a little cottage industry. Some entrepreneur wants to pick up to
Mm.
supply a service of doing a background check on
Yeah,
people's services, things like that.
right.
That might be a good little cottage industry for somebody to
Yeah,
jump up and do.
yeah,
Uh,
it could very well.
Gee, Dick, maybe we should hire somebody to do that. Hmm.
Yeah,
I, for those that don't know me, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I was,
yeah,
my gosh, I start lots of little businesses and lots of little adventures. And I was just saying to this morning that I can't believe I'm becoming an advocate for senior scams. You know, this protect senior citizens. I would have never thought this was going to happen, but it's
mhm,
you that did it. You,
yeah.
you know.
Well, hopefully, we're providing a valuable service that they'll listen to and heed our advice, and that's really what we're looking to do. So,
You know, downstream, what I was thinking this morning, you know, me being the consummate marketer, when we get about 10 podcasts up, I think I want to approach some of the radio stations for an early morning show for us, or to come on as a 5 minute senior news brief or something, you know, on scams or something like that.
yeah,
That might be. I mean, you were talking the other day. You know, how do we get this information into the hands of who needs it? And that is a bit of a challenge, no question. Although I will share that the biggest number of people coming online are seniors, and usually their kids get them on computers or iPads and this and that, so they can share pictures and see the grandkids and whatnot. So it's it's not it's still an issue. It's not as big as an issue it was 20 years ago, for example.
no, I agree, and I think with the availability of lower cost computers, or like you say, tablets, more and more seniors are getting on, and it's a lot easier now to navigate the internet than it was
Oh
10 or
yeah,
15 years ago too. So
absolutely. You know, and I think I've talked to several of the senior centers out here for computer classes, helping to go in and teach them how to utilize their computer, how to surf the web, and they've got some of those going in some of the senior places for sure. Not to
yeah,
say that there shouldn't be more, and we might want to get on that little lecture circuit, so to speak, where maybe you pedal yourself out there to Shadow Hills or some of the other places and talk to
right.
seniors, and spread the word. You know.
Yeah. I've already started growing the contacts list to start contacting the senior places and places like Shadow Hills and the Del Webb
Yeah, Del Webb Properties.
facilities.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm new to the desert area. I've only been out here about 4 years. How long have you been here, Dick?
Well, I've lived on a snowbird basis out here for about 14 years, and in the last year and a half, I've been out here full time
Oh, okay. So you're actually newer than I am. And
on
how
a full time basis. Yeah.
and how is it that you know all this stuff and I don't know? How is that? Yeah.
Well, you're the engineer back there, and the entrepreneur developing all these things, and I'm as a legal shield independent associate. I'm looking for potential clients and
Hmm.
doing the research there because excuse me,
Hmm.
uh, I think our program has a lot of merit to the senior citizen. So I've been doing some research on that.
Well, this week I want to develop the idea of deputizing people. We're going to
Okay.
need, excuse me, we're going to need a some kind of oath that they take, raise their hand, take your oath, you know, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
maybe a little document that we leave behind with them showing that they're authorized senior scam deputy, communications deputy to spread the word
Right.
and bring more content out to people. You know, when you're out and about at these senior places, try to see if there's any. Do they have like CD players? Do they have any songs that they play? I mean, do they have something that we could make a CD of some of our shows and have them play them in their rec rooms or things like that? And of course, some of these that's assuming it's a closed facility where people live at.
Yeah.
The Which brings up another thing, this elder abuse thing. We probably need to. It's out on a tangent, but elder abuse is another big problem in America.
Yeah.
and I mean not only scams, but I mean actually abuse. So, and that's a tough one. I thought about that this morning. I don't know what you do with that, but I'm gonna look into it a little bit because people that know me know I'm in the martial arts and protection. God help somebody if I'm ever in a rest home and they try to abuse me. God help them. Is all
Yeah.
I can say. You have no idea what can of worms you're going to open up, you know.
Yeah.
But at any rate, that's not true for 99.9% of the people in an elder abuse situation. So I'm
No.
going to do a little bit of
No.
look at that.
Yeah.
And I think there's some scams run in those places too. You know, they're stealing, they're doing other stuff to the seniors. You know.
Oh, absolutely. Those uh, you hear and read about these exposés all the time of senior centers that have taken advantage of the senior citizen in either fraud or abuse or lack of care, which I guess is abuse also. So
I remember when my grandfather, you know, we both share something. We were raised by our grandparents, and when my grandfather got to a point where he had a stroke, poor guy, and it was like his body was on fire all the time.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
the nerve damage that was done anyway. To help things go by, Grandma hired, you know, through my aunt even, you know, a service for 24/7 care for him in the home. And I remember, even though I was in the army about that time, um, coming home and boy, they change hands a lot. I mean, there are a lot of different people coming and going, and it turns out they were stealing jewelry and valuables, and things go missing, and it was just terrible.
unbelievable. It really is.
Uh,
It's just
so but I imagine that happens almost anywhere. I know that there are cleaners come in and they do more than just cleaning clean your house.
yeah, yeah.
I
We
had a situation like that here that things start going missing. You know, that's not okay.
no. Well, it's like you said that the threshold of protection
It happens
at the front
at the
door.
front door, back door, any of the through the window. You know,
Yeah,
window
yeah,
washers through the window.
yeah, yeah.
Because I know in some cases the window washers are washed both sides, the inside and out. And of course, then they're inside and they're all around your stuff constantly.
Right.
You know, so don't necessarily trust them to do their job. You might want to monitor them and walk with them and talk with them and keep an eyeball on them. You know,
Right. That's right.
terrible thing to have to say these days. You know.
But it's a world we live in.
It truly is. You know, one of the things I was thinking about on that same thing, so you don't lose items like that, is to get a small safe put in, bolted down somewhere, and then put your valuables in that safe. Whenever you're going to have visitors or grandkids or anybody else over, put your extreme valuables in that safe
Right.
and be done with it. Like I have a lot of guns here, a lot of weapons, and they're usually right out ready to rock and roll. That's what a weapon's
Mm.
for. And so when I have visitors over, I safe everything and lock them up. You know,
Yeah.
same
Yep.
kind of thing you got to think about.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
now, did you have any other scams you want to talk about?
Well, just briefly, I've been reading a little bit about the funeral frauds, and basically, there's two different things you got to be aware of. One, you lose a loved one, and it's sudden, and you're at a very emotional state, and you go to the funeral parlor, and they just start overcharging you and offering goods and services that you don't need, selling you unnecessary services, and they've got you at your most emotional state. So, I think my advice there is bring somebody with you that obviously is going to be affected by it, but not quite the emotional state, to make sure that the decisions you're making while you're at the funeral parlor, picking out caskets and services and all, there's someone there that can apply a non-emotional rationale to what you're doing.
Right, right.
Okay, and the second thing which you realize is people prepaying for their funeral, for their cemetery plot, for their casket and all. You start paying now on a monthly basis. So when the time comes, you don't have that big bill to foot for your burial of a loved one. And you have to really make sure that you're dealing with a legitimate funeral parlor that if the program's good. What are they doing with your money? What kind of interest are you getting on
Mm-hmm.
your money? What are you paying for? Are you protected if the firm goes out of business? Can you cancel a contract? What happens if you move to a different area? And be sure to tell your family about the plans you made, and get them to help you scrutinize it to make sure it's legitimate. Because you may be paying a guy $100 a month, and if it's not a legitimate program, it's your money's going to be gone, and it may be stolen right out from you. And the sad part of that is you don't know until you need to go use it, and then it's too late.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, you
just be very, very careful when you're doing prepaid funeral arrangement plans.
right. Yeah. No, I hadn't thought about that. I met
Yeah.
one guy that actually does. You can pay for your funeral online. They'll pick up the
Yeah.
body for $600 or $700 and take it to. They have a agreement with local people. I mean, it's pretty crazy stuff. They
Yeah.
have an online funeral thing, but
Wow.
I'll have to find his card
Yeah.
and along the way here and check it out. I was going to talk with him anyway, but I'll just jam through this real quick and see if I can find it. This might be the wrong. I get so many business cards these days, as you probably do
Yeah.
too. That
Yeah.
I got a way to organize it, but I haven't done it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Well,
one.
again, while you're looking through it, I just want to reiterate there are legitimate plans where you can prepay for your funeral arrangements, and if that's something you care to do, that's fine because they're legitimate. But just check out the people you're doing business with. Once again, the Better Business Bureau. Again, if it's just a plug, I guess, for Legal Shield again. But before you sign that contract, have your Legal Shield attorney review it and make sure it's legitimate and the terms and conditions are favorable to you. Again, these are good ideas, but you have to take the steps to protect yourself.
Yeah, I did find a card. It's an All-American cremation.
Oh, well.
For what it's worth, I'll go check it out and see if we want to list
Yeah,
it up on the site for
yeah, yeah,
possible resources. I guess I don't know,
yeah,
but
yeah,
anyway. All right, Sir Dick. Well, I think this has
yeah.
been a little good podcast. We'll bring it to a close and see if I can produce this one today, whilst you're at church, even.
Okay.
So I may have that up. All right,
All right.
so this is Peter Brusso, and check the show notes. We'll have some things, all the stuff we talked about, in the links there. Dick, do you have any closing words you want to talk about?
No, I just hope that the seniors that are listening to us realize that what we're trying to do is help them and to help them avoid being scammed or having their money taken from them. So, other than that, have a great day, Peter.
All right.
And
Thanks, Dick. We'll talk to you later then.
okay, take care.
All right, bye.
Bye.
And